Edie, good to see you again.
Oh, it's been so long.
I know, it's been a slow couple of days, so we're just catching up.
Just
Okay,
slowly, so slowly.
so what's the big thing that happened, Edie?
Okay, so yesterday we see that RFK Jr. has been confirmed as the secretary. And so this is a huge moment, and it could be good, it could be bad, it could be everything in between. This is a very prediction-based moment. But immediately upon confirmation, we saw very late last night that another executive order has come out from President Trump, as per the norm here lately, basically talking about what the next 100 days looks like in terms of the expectations of RFK Jr. taking office. And that is to essentially perform an assessment of our national health acumen, if you will. And I'm using my words, not theirs. The executive order, to be very fair, on both sides of the aisle, does highlight a lot of health needs for us, right? It talks extensively about our current crisis when it comes to certain obesity issues, diabetes, when it comes to food supply, when it comes to nutritional and preventative measures, when it comes to the increase that we're seeing in pediatric disorders, whether that's autism or otherwise related. So it is a very I don't want to go over the top to say accurate, but alarmingly timely assessment of the fact that we are seeing as an overly developed nation compared to those who might be lesser developed some very disturbing health trends, right, across the board that should be preventable, treatable issues. And getting an assessment on why and what is happening is really the goal, at least as it appears, of this executive order to go, okay, let's get an assessment on what's happening so that then we can formulate what this particular secretary's, acting duties and charges and initiatives will be moving forward. So I think at least on its face, this is a really quality assessment and an alarming call to action as it relates to clinical trials and biomedical innovation. There's no clear barometer how we're quote unquote going about this assessment. If we assess a current vaccine, for example, as many of us are concerned based on RFK Jr.'s, prior stated opinions, is the cause for a childhood disorder such as a spectrum disorder or autism, that may be presented to the administration as a cause and thus change, which would be a healthcare standard that we all in science, if you will, accept that could be dialed back. Now, that's just a prediction. So it could also be that we go, look, our food supply is full of ultra processed food and we have food deserts. We don't have the opportunity for many in the communities that suffer from pre-diabetes and diabetes to have access to the appropriate nutrition and or their federal supplementation when it relates to financial concerns for them to access the right food to not have these concerns preventatively. Maybe we don't have access to the right preventative medications, interventions, appointments that would have prevented some of this. So I do think this could be positive, but the way it's worded, of course, is incredibly vague, and we don't know where this administration is headed. What do you think?
There's a trend going on in the food world called food is medicine.
Yep.
And I think RFK is very much as part of that food as medicine trend, which I think is, as a concept, really good. I'm not completely convinced that there is as much there as people want it to be. Like food, I think the idea of addressing food deserts, like you said, pharmacy
Right.
deserts, like we've discussed, I think these are good goals. I also think that RFK Jr., in my humble opinion, at this moment, may be woefully unqualified. And this is not a political conversation. This is literally as a lawyer to a lawyer. I don't
Right.
know if a lawyer should be in charge of health and human services. My point is a different one, though. My point is actually, I think the fact that I think while he may be woefully unqualified, he brings a contrarian view.
Sure.
And I think that maybe you need that every so often. Every so often, you need someone to go, I reject everything you know so far. So it's sort of like putting the guy who's in charge of NASA and making him a flat Earth person.
Yeah.
And you're just
Yeah.
kind of going, wait, what
So
now?
this is, I think, the part that, like, for me, look, if someone was to question the foundations of preventative health, and why we aren't preventing more of the chronic disease that we experience at such a higher rate than other countries in our particular situation. I would love to be preventing more than treating. And also that would help our healthcare system. I don't know any clinicians who disagree with this. What I concern is the baby with the bathwater. So if we decide that food and preventative steps are critical to, say, preventing diabetes and obesity, which they are 100%, and we haven't focused on that enough in the United States, are we then going to say, well, if I just ate better, my kid wouldn't have autism? And are we going to suddenly go down some blind alleys that aren't entirely justified by just nutrition?
We as a society throw the word preventative around way too easily. And what I mean by that is, while I love the concept of preventing disease, the fact is that to prove that something is preventative requires a massive clinical trial. Things that you simply can't fund. It's too difficult to prove. At best, you can show a correlation. You're probably not going to show a causation.
It's a causation. Yep.
Right. And my point is, we're going to make decisions for preventative based at best on correlation. And is that good enough? When are we depending on bad data to make national decisions?
I also think we have folks who are in a non-scientific expertise setting who may or may not personally or family or anecdotally wise have dealt with certain situations. So for example, I have a relative who couldn't be skinnier, couldn't be in better health, couldn't be more monitoring of what goes into his body, and couldn't be more active about preventing any type of disorder or disease. Like, this is an individual who knows the risks that are ahead of him, and as he's been aging has been incredibly over the top about being serious about them. He was still diagnosed with pre-diabetes while being underweight, while doing everything right, while having no other risk factors, sheerly because of genetics. And so when you run into a situation like that, are we going to cut off avenues or opportunities of treatment for a person like that who didn't not adhere to your preventative regimen, didn't not do everything right? But look, some individuals truly have a genetic history that they cannot escape. And we can't in any way sway science to the fact that if you are predispositioned to certain issues, no matter all the preventative actions you take, you may still be subject and you may still need medication as if you never took preventative steps. And that's not a punishment.
Edye, I'm going to have to cut you off because we're going down a path that I think there's so much there. Let's come back. Let's discuss this soon.
I agree.
Stay tuned.
I agree. I think it's just a stay tuned issue, right? We're all going to have to stay tuned, and we're all going to have to stay abreast of what's happening, because this is going to be a very controversial topic for the next coming weeks.
Call, click, or email.